You were never hard to love. You were just harder to play with. People who wanted power over you called you too much. But people who want to love you will call you exactly right. Because the truth is simple. You don't break for half effort. You don't bend for mixed signals. You don't shrink for fragile egos. And that makes you dangerous. To anyone who benefits from confusion, you're not hard to love. You're just hard to fool. One requires healing. The other requires character. You see people clearly. You hear what they don't say. You notice the tone, the hesitation, the inconsistency. You feel it in your body. When something is off, you feel it in your chest. When someone's intentions wobble, you feel it in your gut. When a person wants access, but not accountability, people like that don't thrive around you. They get exposed. They get overwhelmed. They get uncomfortable. Not because you ask for too much, but because you won't accept too little. You're not the kind of person who settles for crumbs. You're not the kind of person who chases half love. You're not the kind of person who pretends not to notice the red flags waving in your face. You question things. You slow down. You get curious. You look deeper. And people who rely on confusion don't know what to do with someone who actually pays attention. They can't breadcrumb you. They can't love you on Monday and ignore you on Friday. They can't offer chaos and call it chemistry. You want consistency. You want stability. You want effort. Not because you're needy, but because you're healthy. And healthy looks intimidating to the ones who aren't. You don't respond to vagueness. You don't melt for excuses. You don't reward emotional immaturity. You expect clarity. You expect intention. You expect emotional honesty. And that is why the wrong people fall away. They never came to love you. They came to use you. That's what they mean. When they say you're hard to love, they really mean you see too much. You ask for the truth. You won't let me stay small. You won't let me play games. But the right person? He won't run. He won't hide. He won't collapse. Because a person who is right for you isn't threatened by your depth. He's drawn to it. He's steady. He's intentional. He's emotionally awake. He doesn't confuse you. He doesn't disappear. He doesn't talk in circles. He brings clarity with him. He brings presence with him. He brings peace with him. You don't wonder what he feels. You feel it in how he shows up, in how he communicates, in how he prioritizes you, in how he holds space for you. You aren't hard to love. You're just finally done being an option. When someone can't play with you, they try to redefine you. They call you cold. They call you distant. They call you dramatic. Not because you are, but because it protects their ego. It's easier for them to call you difficult than to admit they were never ready for someone real. You weren't demanding. You were just awake. And people who live on autopilot don't understand someone who actually pays attention. You see patterns. You see motives. You see emotional fingerprints all over someone's behavior. You catch the tone shift. You notice the pullback. You register the hesitation. You feel the moment. Their energy stops matching their words. And they know you feel it. They can sense it. They can't hide behind charm, or distraction, or avoidance. You make people face themselves, not because you try to, but because your presence reveals the truth in the room. Your energy asks real questions. Your mind demands coherence. Your heart refuses to settle for half love. People mistake that for intensity, but it's really alignment. You are aligned with yourself, aligned with your values, aligned with what love means to you. And anything less feels like self-betrayal. People who wanted to play sensed this immediately. They realized they couldn't hide their inconsistency. They couldn't disappear and come back without consequences. They couldn't give you 10% and hope you'd be grateful. You require presence. You require effort. You require realness. Not because you're demanding, but because you're done with the parts of yourself you lost. In past relationships, there was a time when you did tolerate too little, when you softened your voice so someone else could stay comfortable, when you ignored the red flags because you believed in their potential more than their effort, when you stayed longer than you should have because you confused loyalty with self-sacrifice. But not anymore. Life taught you, pain shaped you, healing sharpened you, and now you know the truth. The bare minimum is disrespect. Anyone who wants space in your life has to match your energy, your clarity, your emotional honesty, and that makes you hard to play with. Because people who aren't ready to grow don't want love. They want comfort. They want control. They want someone easy to impress, but not someone who inspires them to evolve. You do the opposite. You raise the room. You raise the standard. You raise the emotional temperature. And the wrong person will always panic around that kind of presence. They'll back away. They'll shut down. They'll disappear. Not because you are too much, but because they are too little for the version of love you offer. Your love exposes the emotional shortcuts they've taken their entire life. It forces them to confront the parts of themselves they've carefully avoided, their inconsistency, their emotional laziness, their fear of intimacy. You make people choose, grow with you, or lose access to you. And most people aren't used to having to make that choice. They'd rather call you complicated than admit they aren't equipped. But here's the truth you're learning. The right person will never be intimidated by the depth of your heart because the right person is already living at that depth. The wrong people fall away because your presence requires truth, not performance, not potential, not promises. Truth. And truth feels dangerous to someone who survives on half versions of themselves. You don't let people hide. You don't let energy lie. You don't let words replace effort. You see through all of it, effortlessly, instinctively, automatically. You don't react to masks. You wait for the real face to appear. And when it does, you adjust. You protect your peace. You pull back. That's what makes you powerful. You don't chase clarity. You create it. You don't beg for love. You embody it. You don't run after people. You let them reveal themselves. This terrifies people who only know relationships where they are chased, catered to, or emotionally rescued. You're not their rescuer. You're their mirror. And a mirror is the last thing an emotionally unprepared person wants to face. Your presence shows them where they avoid, where they withdraw, where they lie to themselves. It shows them the gap between who they want to be and who they actually are. Most people can't handle that, so they blame you. They call you too intense, too deep, too serious. But depth only feels scary to someone who has never learned to swim. You're not drowning them. You're inviting them to stop running from themselves. But they panic. They shut down. They disappear. They tell themselves, it's your fault. But deep down, they know the truth. They were never prepared for someone who loves with both eyes open, someone who feels everything, someone who listens between the lines, someone who refuses to play emotional hide and seek. You don't flirt with confusion. You confront it. You don't tolerate inconsistency. You name it. You don't excuse bad behavior. You step back from it. And someone who wants to play needs your silence more than they need your presence. You don't give them that. You ask the questions they avoid. Where is this going? Why are you pulling away? What do you actually want? Not to control them, but to understand them. And people who want to keep you in the dark feel threatened by your light, your clarity, your awareness, your emotional intelligence. You communicate directly. You express your needs. You don't hide your heart behind pride or fear. That level of vulnerability is powerful, but power in the hands of someone honest looks like love. Power in the hands of someone insecure looks like danger. So they run, they retreat, they shut down, not because you overwhelmed them, but because you awaken them. Awakening feels like a threat to someone who has lived half asleep. Your love is not small. Your heart is not small. Your vision for relationships is not small. And anyone playing games needs smallness. They need you uncertain. They need you doubting yourself. They need you shrinking. But you don't shrink anymore. You don't chase anymore. You don't wait for someone to become the person they promised to be. You've outgrown that version of yourself. And this is why the right person will breathe easier around you, not heavier. He will feel seen, not judged. He will feel invited, not interrogated. He will feel inspired, not exposed. You don't scare the right person. You strengthen him. You bring out the maturity he's been growing into. You bring out the honesty he's been learning to speak. You bring out the consistency he's been preparing to offer. The right man doesn't want to play. He wants to meet you, match you, build with you. And when he arrives, your depth won't feel like too much. It'll feel like home. There comes a moment when you finally understand something you weren't ready to see before. You were never asking for too much. You were asking the wrong people. People who wanted entertainment, not commitment. People who wanted attention, not accountability. People who wanted access to your heart without offering access to theirs. You threatened that dynamic simply by existing because you don't offer surface love. You don't offer half presence. You don't offer empty words. You offer real connection, real intimacy, real vulnerability. And realness exposes people who have only ever loved halfway. You became hard to play with. When you became impossible to manipulate, that's when everything changed. You stopped absorbing excuses. You stopped believing potential. You stopped forgiving patterns. You stopped waiting for someone to choose you while they kept choosing their comfort. You stopped confusing chemistry with consistency. You stopped mistaking mixed signals for emotional depth. You stopped interpreting chaos as passion. You grew up emotionally in a way that many people never do. You learned to sit with yourself. You learned to listen inward. You learned to honor your needs without apologizing for them. That is emotional evolution. And not everyone evolves with you. Some people stay children in adult bodies. They avoid. They deflect. They disappear. Not because love is too hard, but because self-reflection is. You don't enable that behavior. You don't reward it. You don't surrender to it just to keep someone around. That's why you're powerful now. You stopped bending to fit into places your spirit had outgrown. You stopped chasing validation that never fed you. You stopped tolerating relationships where you loved harder than you were loved back. You outgrew games. You outgrew emotional crumbs. You outgrew people who only knew how to love you when it benefited them. This is the version of you they didn't expect. Strong, clear, awake, and the right person will not be intimidated by that. He will be relieved, relieved to finally meet someone who speaks the same emotional language, relieved to finally meet someone who wants to build, not perform, relieved to finally meet someone who brings clarity, not chaos. Your presence won't overwhelm him. It will organize him. It will ground him. It will inspire him. He won't be afraid of your standards. He'll rise to them. He won't hide from your questions. He'll answer them with honesty. He won't punish your vulnerability. He'll protect it. With him, you won't have to guess. You won't have to shrink. You won't have to negotiate for love. You won't have to chase ever again, because real love meets you where you are and invites you even deeper. And when that love arrives, you'll finally understand something. You were never hard to love. You were just waiting for someone who loved like you, someone who didn't want to play, someone who wanted to stay, someone who wasn't intimidated by the depth you carry, someone who doesn't run when things get real, someone who sees you, chooses you, protects you, and grows with you. Because the right person doesn't fear your depth. He recognizes it. He respects it. He matches it. And when he arrives, you'll realize you were never too much. You were just finally aligned with someone who was enough. If this message spoke to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Save this, share this, and let it remind you of the love you deserve and the strength you've become. Because you're not hard to love. You're just done being played with.